I was rebellious from the very beginning. But the point is, convincing parents somehow is a different
Most
ballpark.
difficult, बिल्कुल. And
So,
वो you
नहीं.
went out, did a turnover of a few crores, and then आपने दिखाया कि भाई ये कर लिया है हमने और हमें ये अभी करना है.
Yeah, I think 23-year-old guy making more than 3.5 to $4 million as a net revenue at that point of time
Wow,
was something good for
unheard of.
us.
बिल्कुल
Uh,
बिल्कुल.
and
Good क्या? It was like the dream. Any kid's dream would be to essentially be there.
Yeah, so actually I have lived that part of the dream of becoming a millionaire at the age of 21. Product journey is only 25-30% of of what you can do in a startup. It's more towards how you get to the business, automate your operations and everything else.
So one is कि आपने कहा था कि वो टाइम पे बहुत सारे धंधे थे इंडिया में, बट कोई स्टार्टअप नहीं था. So आपके अनुसार how are the both being differentiated as per you?
So see, point is India में ना there's a lot of marketing gimmick. So first of all, basic difference between a dhanda and a startup is that startups are meant to be path breaking. They are about solving a problem which has never been solved.
Hello and welcome to an exciting new episode of Fintech की बात दिल से. In this episode, we have with us Mr. Saurabh Gupta, co-founder and CEO of VerySmart.ai. Hi Saurabh, thank you so much for your time today and it's a pleasure having you here.
Hey, hi Shreyas. Thanks for inviting us. I think we have been planning this thing for quite some time.
बिल्कुल.
So thanks for sparing time today.
All thanks to you, sir. All thanks to you for sparing your time. And finally, it's a pleasure having you here in the studio with us, albeit virtual. But yes. So without further ado, let's get straight right into it. आपको ये entrepreneurship का कीड़ा आया कहाँ से? I know you have been through and through entrepreneur. So let's start with that.
So, देखो, when I started to build something which was into auto tech, my passionate about that industry, about that the technology which I've been building kind of made me land to the entrepreneurship journey itself. So I was a core product and a tech guy, okay, who intend to build something good. I rather even went to large businesses to kind of, because okay, so the story starts with a DARPA Lab Autonomous Vehicle Challenge. This challenge happened in the year 2008, and I was lucky enough to kind of get into that challenge because there were thousands and thousands of people who were trying to get into this thing, because this was happening in Texas. And
DARPA is a defense organization.
Yes, it's a defense research organization for the US. Okay, just to give a context to the audience, it's like the way India has DRDO, the same is the DARPA labs.
Nice.
Okay, so they came up with that of creating an autonomous vehicle challenge, and they invited all the universities and all the shining professors who have been working into AI and all across the industries. So they invited a lot of universities across the globe, and we stumbled to be like there were only 2 universities who were invited from India, and I stumbled to be a part of one of the team on that thing itself. And since my core was into electronics and communication, so it was a core responsibility given to me to develop the complete AI engine for the autonomous vehicle of that particular thing. And good and bad thing, I was pretty young. I was only in the second year of my college itself. But my upbringing has been that my father comes from an electronics Like
Acha.
he's electronics engineer. He has served
I see.
at different companies. So my knowledge was
Mm-hmm.
more than average than any other student in that domain.
Got it. Got it.
And this is because I have built something earlier, again in the automobile tech itself,
Acha.
and that kind of paved my path to be over here. And then this is something which we
Mm-hmm.
built the autonomous vehicle. We got into top 25 teams who participated in Texas, and gave us a huge exposure.
Mm-hmm.
You go meet those incredible people whom you always get inspired, whose lectures you might be reading over YouTube, or maybe other set of things. At that point of time, YouTube was not even that famous as well.
True. True.
We do not had the habit of learning from the YouTube, but we were
Mm-hmm.
doing IEEE research papers. We were actually studying those research paper of the professors, and we were able to meet them in person. So this kind of learning helped
Mm-hmm.
me to continue my passion into the automobile tech, and also gave me a global exposure. And that global exposure helped me to create stepped into the entrepreneurship journey. So it's like many things fall in place for me to pave out my path for entrepreneurship. It was not something I was really first thing looking forward,
Mm-hmm.
because I come from a family which is a service class, have been working, and they were very particular that, oh, you should get a good grades, get a job. And there's an interesting story,
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel happy to, I would say. So when I was starting, worked for few months
Mm-hmm.
at this GMR Dial team, which is Delhi International Airport Limited.
Right.
So I worked over there, and parallelly I was working on my this startup as well, because earlier it was a passion, which was completely product and everything else. But
Uh-huh.
after that, it was more towards creating the business around it. Okay,
Bilkul.
and I think product journey is only 25-30% of of what you can do in a startup. It's more
Mm-hmm.
towards how you get to the business, automate your operations and everything else. Okay,
Bilkul. Bilkul.
so in that particular case, uh, I was working, and my family was okay. Yeah, this guy did well for himself, got
Mm-hmm.
a good, decent job, and that was also a great project of more than $250 million, which is India's first baggage handling system. On
Wow.
So I was learning. Undoubtedly, I was getting into that, but I decided after a few months,
Mm-hmm.
almost like 9-10 months. After that, I decided that would be going to start my startup journey full time. And
Mm-hmm.
initial few years, I just mentioned to my parents that
Mm-hmm.
I have found a good job, better paying package. They are giving
Acha.
me 2x of a salary,
Mm-hmm.
and I am switching to this company. This is the company. The company got registered meanwhile, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. And they were said, okay, good, fine. And what's the job? And I said, it's into auto tech, and we're gonna work with a lot of large
Mm-hmm.
OEMs. This is the technology and everything. And they said, okay, great. They blessed me with all this thing. It's until the end of first year of my business where I shown, because they somehow got to know, and I
Mm-hmm.
shown them my first revenue sheet, and said that, see, in the first year I have made 2.5 crore, and otherwise
Oh.
I would have been able to made that much money while
Mm-hmm.
being in the job itself.
Bilkul. Bilkul.
So it was
Amazing.
something. I I was rebellious from the very beginning. But the point is, convincing parents somehow is a different
मोस्ट
ballpark.
डिफिकल्ट बिल्कुल. एंड
Itself.
वो पूरा एक साल आपने अपने पेरेंट्स को बताया ही नहीं था कि आप खुद का कंपनी चला रहे हो.
नहीं,
You
नहीं.
went out, did a turnover of a few crores, and then आपने दिखाया कि भाई ये कर लिया है हमने और हमें ये अभी करना
Yeah.
है.
So I think
This is
I
sorry to interrupt. This is like वो भाग के शादी करने वाला जो सीन होता है ना, ये बिल्कुल उसके पैरेलल है but for entrepreneurs.
yeah, I totally agree. So at that point of time, just imagine I'm talking about 2010-11. आपने startup का नाम, मतलब there was no startup in India. There were startups which was getting created out of there in Valley and every other part of the world, but not in India.
बिल्कुल.
They were dhanda, they were business, and I was
True.
like, तब शायद फ्लिपकार्ट शुरू हो चुका था, but they were not sufficiently big where people can say कि नहीं, young people can start a business or a startup and they can be path breaking and can get a good value addition and solve a great problems and everything else. So that was the time when I started my first startup, and this startup scaled pretty fast. And while we were scaling and giving all our juice to this venture, we stumbled upon with a deal coming from a private equity fund. And the point is, that deal was so lucrative that and the partnership even was more lucrative, that made us believe that if we kind of partner or pass on the owners to this new this, because this was private equity fund of our enterprise itself. Okay, so we pass it to them, they will be able to bring more justice and at a global scale.
बिल्कुल.
So that was the thing. It was with the name Garage One, and we pretty much did a good revenue. I think 22, 23-year-old guy making more than $3.5 to $4 million as a net revenue at that point of time.
Wow.
Was something good for
Unheard
us.
of. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
And
Good. It was like a dream. Any kid's dream would be to essentially be there.
yeah, so actually I have lived that part of the dream of becoming a millionaire at the age of 21. And this was something which I pretty much enjoyed at that point of time. And at that point of time, you don't know what to do with the money,
बिल्कुल.
because that was something 100% art. It was completely bootstrapped, no investors, and we were able to
Wow.
scale it pretty well. So yeah, so it was something, a good journey and good learning experience itself. Now the point is, when I see in the today's world people starting up, somehow I don't know, I might be wrong, but most of the people I met, when I asked them what's your startup journey, what made you land to this particular venture,
Right.
or starting solving this particular problem, I observe and find out that many of them are having an escapism as a route to move to the startup industry. And
True.
this is pretty much disturbing to see. And I think nowadays the death ratio for startups are growing, because people obviously does not have that kind of a resilience. They do not have that kind of a persistence, and the basic problem of that is that they are not connected with the problem.
बिल्कुल.
They're not connected with the problem which they are solving. And many of them,
that is very key.
so many of them is like, they started something, sorry, they were doing job, so doing job become monotonous, and then they switched to getting into the startup because they feel that pursuing passion could end up making a good business.
बिल्कुल. बिल्कुल.
Many of them were like, I'm not good at studies, I cannot do good at studies, let's do something as a startup. So it's like, if you're not good at studies, and is it something which you are not good because you are lazy,
हम्म,
you do not want to put a sufficient effort, and that's
बिल्कुल,
why you want to do a startup, please do not get into the startup industry. This is not the
well said,
industry meant for you.
बिल्कुल,
So this is something which I've been seeing nowadays. um,
true,
Earlier many of the people started and they were able to sustain, or
हम्म,
the people who were actually had a sustainable startups
हम्म,
are the ones who still feel and connected with the problem which they, or the vision for which they have started.
हम्म। I'll want to stop you here. एक आपको जो आपने पहले एक चीज कही थी, right? I'll kind of call back to that, and then I have a question for you on the same piece, right?
Hmm.
So one is कि आपने कहा था कि वो टाइम पे बहुत सारे धंधे थे इंडिया में,
Hmm.
बट कोई स्टार्टअप नहीं था.
Hmm.
So आपके अनुसार how are the both being differentiated as
Hmm.
per you?
So see, point is, India में ना, there's a lot of marketing gimmick.
Hmm.
So first of all, basic difference between a dhanda and a startup is
Hmm.
that startups are meant to be path breaking. They are about solving a problem which has never been solved earlier,
Hmm.
and have an exponential growth in terms of market itself.
Hmm.
These three different factors make any business idea as a startup category. This is not what I'm saying in particular. This is what we have studied in
बिल्कुल,
past as a key differentiator between a dhanda and a dhit. You can
बिल्कुल.
make money in dhanda. You can
Hmm.
make 50% top of the line margin. You can make 60% margin on
True.
whatever. But the problem, if you're getting into a market which is already being addressed 10, 100 times or itself, you're not adding
Hmm.
any new value to that particular problem statement, then you're
बिल्कुल.
typically doing a dhanda, because dhanda has risk. I'm not denying that building a
True.
business does not have risk, but it has a still a kind of a controlled risk. It's still a controlled risk environment.
Hmm.
But startup is not a controlled risk environment, and that is based on to the stage of the startup. That's why the stages of the startups are being defined, that it's a seed, angel, pre,
Hmm. Hmm.
in the funding we define it that way. But
Right.
in the actual startup life cycle, it has been
Hmm.
defined that you first identify the problem, build the solution for the problem, or envisage the solution of the problem, build
Hmm.
a team out of it, then get your first 10 customers and solve for them, and then you kind of multiply this thing and automate the entire life cycle of a customer journey.
And then
this
scale
is
it up.
this
Right.
is how a startup is being uh, built.
Hmm.
And this does not change, because every new problem, uh, if you would start addressing, it is the same journey they will go through. But for a
True.
business, every other business, there is a different journey altogether. um,
बिल्कुल.
but in India, even if you are starting a restaurant, many
Startup board.
people would say, hey, Saurabh, I have started a new startup, and it's a
Hmm.
restaurant or a restaurant bar based out of
बिल्कुल.
Gurgaon, and doing this.
और फंडिंग
So
भी उठा लेते हैं लोग उसमें. Not even kidding. फंडिंग भी उठा लेते हैं. And I'm like, यार
yeah,
कहाँ से आते हैं ये लोग?
हाँ हाँ, नहीं देखो श्रेयस, ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है.
हम्म.
इंटरेस्टिंग इसलिए क्योंकि यहाँ पे फंडिंग जो लोग उठा रहे हैं वो किससे उठा रहे हैं? is they are in India, there are a lot of angel investors. Now this number has gone surpass more than 20-25,000, okay,
बिल्कुल.
which are active startup investors as well.
हम्म.
These angel investors, they understand dhanda pretty good, because
True.
many of them have been themselves building businesses in past,
हम्म.
so they are getting money from them.
Right.
If you would see, the investors who are typically investing in problem solving, many prime VCs and everything else, they look for a new problem, a new market, which
बिल्कुल.
is will come gives someone a first mover opportunity and
हाँ
able
जी.
to expand both vertically and horizontally, and able to solve for it. Many of the VCs, many of the matured investors invest only on those startups itself.
Right.
Rest is, I would say, pool of funds, which people pool it from their friends and family. Many of them, they pool it from other set of people altogether. So this is something different. Um,
बिल्कुल.
uh,
Makes
you
sense.
know,
Makes sense. Makes sense. It
both
could be the
parties.
latter one in that
Exactly.
case.
Yeah.
Got it. Got
Their
it.
set of investors are different. Here, the set of investors are different.
Understood. Now coming back to the question that I had for you, right? जो एक तो था जो आपने I think you have explained it really well. The difference between a startup and a traditional business जो धंधा कहते हैं. One is path breaking, second easily scalable, and it should be solving something that is not being solved for yet. Some honest problem
Something new.
statement, right?
Yeah.
Coming to the question that I had on that piece, right? कि essentially when you are looking at an entrepreneurship journey, जैसे आपने कहा कि there are people who are essentially getting into it just as a sort of escapism, just as a, what do you say, just to escape from the 9 to 5.
Yes.
Uh, so here a fundamental question arises on when should you start up and when you should not, or who should not.
Okay.
So what are your views on that?
See, first of all, there's no when it comes to startup. So I would say, why to start up to this?
Okay.
So there's no time. You start when you were early 20s. You start when you are in 30s. You start in 50s, your 60s, your 70s. We have seen people solving problem even when they're in 60s. I've seen a couple of D2C brands started by some senior people, and they started when they were actually at their retirement age of 60
True.
plus.
True.
And so, but why startup? Point is, I think everyone need to understand a problem which is significant for you, which really disturbs you all the time, which really matters to you as an individual. And then you identify that this is a problem for masses, or a scalable uh, platform can be built out of it. Then you should start jump into a startup journey.
Right.
Very simple two liner. One, you identify the problem which is very personal to you, which really bothers you. And when you go out in India or any other markets itself, you all you have to do is keep your eyes and ears open. That's it. You'll find hundreds and thousands of problems every single day if you are a good observer. Okay. So, but the point is that one problem which sticks with you, which compels you, that if you solve this, nothing is your life can easily find a purpose, and this is a purpose where you can solve. And this is a problem which is also for the masses as well, because if you're looking to build a startup and and finally a dhanda out of it, a business out of it, then it has to be scalable. It has to have a market in place, and a sizable market, so that you can really scale well. So that is the point which you need to identify. One is problem, and then the market for it. And once you identify these two things, then you start working on the solutioning, team building, and other set of activities altogether. If you have a problem but it is not having a market, it this is something which you might solve it for yourself, but may not be able to, because there's no people are not facing that same problem. But if you are there in a market where you see there are hundreds of other people, it's a cluttered market. and
बिल्कुल.
you go into this cluttered market, then it become more or less a dhanda where your execution alone would speak more louder than your words and everything else, and you might become one of the player who would have certain percentage of that market. So
Good.
startup is practically that way different.
Definitely, definitely. No, I think that is very well articulated, and I think a lot of people, as you said, like fail to understand that and get into entrepreneurship just for the sake of escaping from 9 to 5, as you said, or just ki मतलब हाँ trend चल रहा है
The
fancy.
mindset is escapism.
Exactly.
If they're studying something, they don't want to do it because they feel that if I'll do startup, if I'll do something else,
Hmm.
it will be a much simpler journey. I need
बिल्कुल.
not put that amount of effort,
Hmm.
and I would get more rewarded in return. Okay, as compared to that. So this is like their greed of making money, their
बिल्कुल.
greed or their laziness around of around the comfort they have. Uh,
Hmm.
that is something pulling them to become a startup because they have seen people making 20x, 30x in less than
Hmm.
2 years or 3 years. They say, oh, this person is now valued as 1,000 crore, and if I would start, I would be in the
Me
same.
too, wala. Yes, 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 बिल्कुल. No, I think that is pretty much what's happening in many cases, and we have seen that. Coming back to very smart AI, jo the company that you're currently heading. Let's talk about how you kind of conceptualized it. What inspired you to get into the segment, and how did you kind of start building that piece?
So, Shreyas, verismart.ai has
Mm-hmm.
been the third startup of my startup journey. Prior to that, I have sold my earlier two startup. One was acquired by this the which I mentioned as an auto tech
The auto tech.
by a private equity fund, and
Mm-hmm.
this got acquired by Times Internet, the second startup which I built. It's a no-code SaaS platform for
Okay.
e-commerce itself. So we
Mm-hmm.
were early to Shopify in India market, and
Oh wow.
we scaled pretty good in that particular itself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Amazing.
when and so I have made money in my past exit, and I do not want to disclose number, but it was three digits in crores which I made in the combined for these things itself. Now the
Mm-hmm.
challenge is um, this when I started verismart.ai, I did not had many of the people said that they had a eureka moment of they identify a problem and they identify everything in one go itself. It was a stepwise journey for me. um, when we started verismart.ai, we started as a regtech, as a
Mm-hmm.
regulatory tech company. I think we
बिल्कुल.
were probably among the first regtech company in India, and we started working with a couple of banks to kind of automate their onboarding journey itself. So we go deep into this thing where we not only just automated the onboarding journeys of or what is single touch point for a consumer, but also created the automated workflows at the back end. So from the point of getting your know-how or your KYC information,
Mm.
collecting that particular data to the point of getting this account being created at a core banking system, all that part of the in between funnels, we also automated that workflows as well. Whether because prior to us, they were this entire data used to go to the RPCs. Then there were certain they used to manually e- enter those data into the DMS. Then the
Mm.
CKYC and other set of processes are being put in place. So we automated the entire leg of it, and that's
बिल्कुल.
why we tend to learn a lot around the compliances around everything of a bank, what is expecting from us while being a technology company.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started as regtech, we scaled into this particular business, but we realized that we have been solving only one small piece of the entire puzzle, and
I see.
this this took us a couple of years. After being into business, we were profitable. We were making good money and serving some of the top brands of the country. So 7 banks among top 10 have been working with us. Telecom, insurance companies, and a lot other people itself. So we realized that this onboarding automation, when the consumers land onto this particular platform, the funnel drops, because in the BFSI sector or any other regulated sector, you cannot accept everyone as your customer, because there are certain predefined guidelines from the regulators. There's a certain predefined checks which you have to fulfill in order to become the customer of these institutions itself.
Right.
This is in protection of of the country from their financial frauds to other set of things itself, and also make this environment more secure for the rest of the aam aadmi ka paisa.
Right.
Now the point is, since there was a lot of funnel drop and the acquisition cost was growing for every of these sector, and what was happening is that even after they have put up the right set of acquisition cost or paid a premium of acquisition cost, they were still, all these institutions were still having a poor LTV, which is a poor lifetime value coming from that customer. Many of these customers were like, they tend not to use the banking system the way it was supposed to be designed, or where bank should also make money to sustain and give them the money back or earn for the people in form of different asset-based class. So on that particular case, it was become a big choker for all of these institutions, and they started coming back to us, sort of how we can have better understanding of our consumer while we onboard them. And I said, sir, there are none of the public repository or even a private repository would expose their data for pre-enrichment, even if you take the user consensus and everything else.
True.
So how that particular thing can be solved? So what we started brainstorming, if all the organizations together can help democratize the intelligence they hold about the consumer in a privacy compliant manner, that is something which will solve the problem as a connected experience.
Wow.
Now just imagine, this problem cannot be solved in silos. I cannot just only have the bank data, because this is already a onboarded user. I need not ingest that part of the data to talk about their customer. They can very well manage their customers onto their risk assessment, onto what kind of a personalization they want to bring in. We're talking about NTB customer, new to bank customer, new to business customer. Now, how they can actually have the intelligence without before they onboard them, and also ensuring the data privacy of. Because what we have seen, the earlier mechanism is a cookie based model or a third party cookie based model, because third party cookies was infringing the user privacy. That's why right now when the data privacy laws has been released across different landscape, it has starting depreciating itself. It has been asked by the respective stakeholders, please depreciate the third party cookies, or spread a more general awareness among the masses that please deny the third party cookies if you do not want that kind of a personalization on that particular platform or something, and do not just keep going out there and keep accepting for third party cookie requests blindly. You just read all those terms and conditions in a profound manner. So it's more around educating those masses. So the point is, what we were thinking, that how all of these large organizations can interact with each other without trading the data, and that made us stumble upon creating a decentralized data infrastructure. Now, this decentralized data infrastructure where we keep the user or pass on the entire power to the user, that he can manage his consent across all the touch points he has been doing a handshake or he has been
Hmm.
onboarded itself. So
Hmm.
we created an infrastructure which is very user centric, because
Hmm.
it is all about creating a better experience or a connected experience for him, no matter whatever be the access touch point, whether it may be in the physical world or the digital world itself.
बिल्कुल.
And user is able to manage the data which all of these organizations hold about him. That
Hmm.
is something which we come across, where this decentralized data infrastructure will solve one side of problem for the enterprises of understanding the consumer behavior,
Hmm.
while they all the other first party does have a consent from the user for doing so. And on the other side, enabling users to
Hmm.
have a more privacy compliant approach where they manages that consent through one single platform. Okay, so they know
Got it.
that my XYZ data is residing on telecom or maybe at a bank and maybe 2000 other website.
Hmm.
Let me be on the other side of the table, Shreyas. Let me
Hmm.
ask you a question. Do you remember how
Hmm.
many portals you have signed up in last 10 years?
No clue. Honestly, no
Do
clue.
you do can you think of a number?
How many websites or portals are signed up for? Roughly would be around 500 to 1000, if not more.
Yeah, so you're talking about a range which is like 500 to 1000. You're not even closely able to guess to where you all signed up.
Right.
So now what we have created is a platform called Data Kavach.
Hmm.
This is for the user consent management. So on the
Data
one
couch.
side we have
Okay.
this very smart MarkTech product, which
Hmm.
is a decentralized data infrastructure which is being used by the enterprises. And on the other side we have a Data Kavach.
Hmm.
Data Kavach first of all tells you that how many platforms you have given the consent
Hmm.
from last 10 years. So
Wow.
they so in that particular case, first of all you get to know that these are the top 300 platforms
Hmm.
who holds my data. Now they
Okay.
also tells you what category of data they hold,
Hmm.
what kind of a permissions you have given to them while accessing their platform
I
or
see.
their application itself. Now, for how long they have been churning that data with you.
Hmm.
So the biggest myth in the entire masses is that app deleted means the data is deleted from their servers. No, it does not
Hmm.
work like this.
I see.
And that is where many of the organization keep abusing the user data,
Hmm.
even if they are still no longer their customer. And a lot of privacy laws
Makes
and everything
sense.
talks about this opt-in and opt-out condition, where opt-out means the consumer need to be forgotten, which
Hmm.
is not happening in the current environment.
Got it.
Okay, so that is something which we thought and build as an ecosystem, where one
Hmm.
side we are solving for the enterprises, on the other side empowering the user to do this. We right now work with 61 large enterprises for whom we are bringing in the data interoperability, where they need not trade data. They
Hmm.
just practically work on a framework and a protocol. These protocols does not consume the real data, but rather triggers and indicators, and all that intelligence cumulatively is being democratized. Um, and now on the other side, user can control. So we
Who
are
gets the
just on the
data?
one side,
When is it
we have solved
deleted?
it for 580 million people,
Wow.
while this is
Brilliant.
for 61 large enterprises. On the other side, now
Hmm.
among those 580 million, they can say, "Hey Saurabh, I want to be forgotten at these 500 websites
Hmm.
which I'm no longer using. These are the
Right.
only 50 websites which are I use, and they are only allowed to keep my data and do not or should not
Hmm.
use it for any other purpose other than." what I've actually allowed.
Amazing. I think this is actually one of the solutions that is need of the hour, and people don't even know it कि इनको जरूरत है इस चीज की.
Yeah.
So I think this has been a really interesting conversation so far, Saurabh, and your journey has really been inspiring, and essentially the kind of process or thought process that you have showed us about what an entrepreneur should be thinking like, who should get into entrepreneurship, and then the entire story around how the very smart AI came into existence and what exactly you are building. I think this is simply phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And with that, we conclude the first part of the episode, which is the founder story. I think you've got an amazing story, and I'm sure our audiences are going to love it. Thank you so much, Saurabh.
Thank you, Shreyas.